So I will just give a quick introduction to XPM. Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So XPM is a specialist in transition management, which means we work on projects, special projects for companies. We handle crises. We also provide interim management. We started about 20 years ago in France, about 8 years ago in India. We have 9 active partners. We're looking to grow it to 20. We're active in Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore. We're also active in the Middle East. We're part of the Will Group. So we have affiliates in the UK, Italy, Spain, Germany, all over Europe and Asia. The industries we've been active in include steel, engineering, chemicals, IT, pharma, and we've been involved in a number of turnarounds, growth, shutting down factories, entering new markets, all kinds of initiatives, and also crises. Our style is very entrepreneurial. So each of our partners has an independent practice, but we also collaborate along with each other. So with that, I will hand it over to Amar.
Thank you, Ranjit. And thank you, my guests and friends, Raju and Vikram, and also my fellow colleagues in this mission, which is XPM. XPM is a mission, that's how it's said. Let me introduce Dr. Raju Mistry, who's the president and global CPO of Cipla. The way in which she describes herself would be like a global experience which she has of more than a quarter century across organizations and sectors, which includes, say, life sciences, Cipla, Jubilant, in corporate talent staffing, employer brand, and group leadership programs in AV Birla Group, Tata's, and CP. These are some of the organizations, and even before that, she was very much into the talent strategy, process controls, and crop sciences in pharma, in Siemens and Bayer. That's the gamut of her total experience which you have. You have her background, which is there in academics. She's an MA in industrial psychology with a PhD in organization behavior. So, with leadership effectiveness. My question remains with her, which she may answer anytime, is that why didn't she pursue a full-fledged career in industrial psychology? Because, I don't know who is missing your, what you call experience as such. You say you should also, have time to find, she has a podcast which is there, which is Mistry's Monday Memoirs, where she shares her experience in Cipla. Now, podcasts, the way in which they are, what you call coming up now, is becoming very popular to broadcast your thoughts and thought processes. And I really appreciate that she has been able to do this even while she's fully into her job right now. I have the privilege to have known and interacted over the last, say, 16 years. Yeah. So welcome. And one point which I wanted to mention is February 20, where I was going through some of Cipla's they had mentioned about Cipla as a structured business on the lines of, say, One India, then South Africa and emerging markets, US generics and specialty, and then lung leadership across markets. So my, pointer, which you may, what you call answer any point in time, is has this changed in the current circumstances where we are going through? Because that was February and we are now in the midst of, what you call May as such. So that's Dr. Raju Mistry for you. And then we have Vikram. Yes, Vikram. He's the president and CHRO of Piramal Group. Now, Piramal is into diverse businesses, which is in pharma, which are into, glass, in financial services, and information systems. You know, these are some of the businesses which they have. He has about 30 years experience plus, and he believes that he is a business leader first. This is something which comes up upfront, you know. His experience in BFSI, automotive, commodities, chemicals, pharma, in global Indian conglomerates and MNCs both. The groups which he has been associated with have been like AV Birla Group, Satyam, Deloitte, then Tata Motors, Reliance, Cipla, and now Piramal Enterprises as such. What I found was that Vikram believes that HR is an interesting phase of leveraging technology and artificial intelligence to enhance the effectiveness of human beings. I think that's something which he propagates. And another thing which I found very interesting was what he believes that not to be deterred by stumbling. You know, we all stumble and all that. But that's what Vikram says is part of learning. You know, he's an MBA with certifications galore in HR instruments as such. You know, that will take a lot of time, but of course you can look it up in his LinkedIn profile. I have the privilege to have known Vikram for more than a decade, definitely. So that's what it is. So here we have the speakers. The format that we'll follow is that we have some questions which we will be putting up to both of you, and we'll see for some response which we get from there, and some questions which we will develop on the responses that you have. So my first point in the agenda is now the business transformation in life sciences. As we see, what are the challenges and opportunities you are, you know, looking at as we are now, you know, what you call getting into it as such. Yes, Raju.
Okay. So first, thank you, Amal, and for inviting me to join you for this conversation. And always a pleasure to speak with Vikram because we are colleagues. We work together in the Aditya Birla Group. It's always a pleasure to be interacting with you and learning from each other. Thank you so much for that. In the introduction, you mentioned about lung leadership in Cipla, right? So I think I will start responding to your question with some reference to that as well.
Okay.
As you know that Cipla is a respiratory leader in India and has done a lot of work in so many decades in this particular space. The kind of crisis that we are dealing with right now has a lot to do with respiratory disorders, and that's what is so much affected. So both as a leader in this space, and also given the kind of lots of good work that Cipla has done in the last so many decades in the field of medicine across various areas. I think one of the legacy that we have built in is about always rising to the occasion and alleviating a lot of pain and suffering, because I think that's the philosophy, founding philosophy of our company is to provide lots of affordable medicine and accessible medicines to people. So true to our philosophy, I think what this particular opportunity, this particular crisis is, I wouldn't say it's an opportunity, but I think it's more like a need. It's a responsibility that we all in the pharma have to rise to, because a lot of people are expecting that from us. They are expecting us to be there to help them, to provide the medicine, because a lot of patients, the amount of people that write to us, and especially our Dr. Hamid, because they are all hoping and seeing that, you know, how can the company, you know, help the people in these tough times. So uh, I think it's a kind of a occasion that we have to help people in these tough times, because there's pain, suffering, there is, and it's the numbers. Their numbers are unprecedented. The kind of numbers and statistics that we see of people being affected by it every day. So one of the things that we all have to do as a responsible company, as a responsible in the industry, is to really kind to find a cure for this. Everyone is waiting and watching to see, can we have a cure? I must tell you, Amal, that in the last few days, the amount of people who have reached out to us to provide the medicines is, unbelievable. So I think we are looking at this more as a responsibility that we have to live up to.
Okay. Yes, Vikram, how would you like to do that in terms of the business transformation which is happening as such in the industry that you are in, more particularly the life sciences one? But you have other businesses also. Would you like to take us through that, please?
Sure. I think, first of all, Ranjit, Amal, thank you for inviting me. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, Raju, always a pleasure and an honor to share the stage. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a conversation. I don't think I'm an expert on the entire life sciences sector, but certainly a student of transitions that are happening or changes that are happening. Some because of COVID and some, as it is, challenges for the sector because, and within life sciences, I think it's a very broad, broad sector. There could be pharmaceuticals. There are also devices. Then there's also downstream consumer products, the over-the-counter products. So I'm going to stick to, really the space. And within pharma, there are players like Cipla who are doing phenomenal work on affordable medicine. They are generic manufacturers. Then there is us. We are in a niche called contract manufacturing. So we are perhaps helping other large multinationals become their reliable partners because of top quality. So it's a niche, and the way I'm looking at this whole challenges bit is, clearly in each country, 3 or 4, it's about dichotomies. The first one really is around price controls. I think that's going to be stronger and stronger. And I think the point that Raju touched upon, governments are, especially in poorer countries, are going to make sure that the accessibility happens because of lower price points. So anybody who has very strong profitability inclinations will have to curb those instincts because I think this is the time to serve humanity. So I think clearly that's going to be a challenge. Uh, Borders are getting protected. There is our Prime Minister, announced self-reliance, and I think we'll see country upon country trying to become self-reliant in whether it is active pharmaceutical intermediates, APIs, which is raw material for the sector, or other products. So we'll see protectionism or boundaries. No longer global will be a big word. I think we have begun to see even in India, protecting your interests. So that's going to be important and extremely. It's securing your interests will become important. Um, in some of our markets, especially in the US, we are seeing a buyer consolidation. So what happened is rather than us selling to hospital chains, we sell to hospital chains. Now, hospital chains are coming together to enhance their buying power, and therefore, again, price and profit pressure. So I think, that kind of consolidation challenges are coming up. Regulatory scrutiny, unfortunately or fortunately, not many Indian companies come out on tops. We are very proud. Piramal has a stellar track record on with regulators. Touch wood, whether it is the US regulators, UK, Japanese, or European regulators, and that's going to be a testimony on quality. So regulatory scrutiny will continue. But if you look at two COVID-induced challenges which are external to all of us, one is, of course, the securing our supplies. So whether it is 60% or maybe in our case 65% of our raw material, the API comes from China. So how do you secure that? There is a great demand out there, but I think will we be able to supply is a new challenge. The second is about fear, and Dr. Raju Mistry, all of us in HR, employees turning up. This morning I was reviewing a project outskirts of Mumbai. Only 25% people turned up for a project despite hardship allowances. All of us are paying a little bit of motivation, incentive, but that whole element of fear, so there'll be orders, there'll be customers, the factories will be ready and open, but will employees turn up despite incentives? So I think that those are the 5 or 6 challenges, some pre-COVID, at least 2 new ones which we see.
Okay, just taking your point, Vikram, how does one build, employee engagement in these times? You touched upon that there is a fear, there is a difficulty in attracting people to the projects which are there. So Raju also, if I can have that, what are we doing in our individual enterprises to see how to keep them engaged and see that the productivity as such at all spheres, they come up to the level which is desired as such.
So, okay, I will take this question and then I think Vikram can follow up. Vikram touched upon fear, I think it is very, very important to deal and manage the fear that people are having. And let's not face it, these are real fears, it's not imaginary. Today, when an employee steps out of the house, and we are seeing that, see, for a long time, our field force was at home because, doctors were not meeting them, hospitals, they were not allowed to enter, and obviously they were not. So for the last 2 months, almost 2 months, field force was sitting at home. So now with the green zones opening up, we started trying to take some small measures to say, okay, people in the green zones can now step up, step out and start in a very small way to see. And you'll be surprised that the kind of experiences people do get when they step out is very fear, because some of these young guys, when they go back to their homes, the landlords do not allow them. So this is for real. So we have to help employees deal with all of this. I remember a case where one of our employees had to undergo a very emergency surgery because she had some problem. So she went to the hospital, this is in Bombay, she went to the hospital, but then she was not allowed entry back. And she's all alone in Bombay, her parents are away, young girl. Now, how do you manage? So HR has to actually step up to deal with even these kind of issues where people have to be, provided and support. So what we have done is, first is, I think what we are doing, and I have interacted with a lot of companies, and at least in the pharma space I have spoken to. I think everyone has stepped up in terms of the security protocols that are to be followed, whether it is a thermal screening or self-declaration or apps. So I think all the companies are doing that in a very strong, stringent measure. Also, I think companies have now almost, they're providing door-to-door transportation to people, because lots of social distancing needs to be managed in the buses, in the canteen areas. So all of this messaging and communication is happening, that you please come to work. We'll ensure that you are safe, enough sanitization is happening, and we will make sure that people who come to work are not having any kind of previous ailments or something like that. But despite all that, there is fear, and we have to manage that. So communication, constant reassurance. Some of our employees spouses have also made, and children have made videos which we have circulated to all people, that see, my father is going to work, because if he doesn't go to work, who will help? So those are very touching messages when you actually see them and hear them. But fear has to be addressed, and I think that's one of the ways to get people. The second thing that I want to touch upon is the whole business model, or the way of operating has to change, because and now governments also are talking about 12-hour shifts, right? And one of the reasons why most of them are able to even thinking about relaxing labor laws, and I think in our country, if the government starts thinking about relaxing labor laws, then it really means something. Then we really have an issue at hand. So I think a lot of openness, flexibility is required, because we know we'll only get so many people to work. We have to maintain our production schedule and norm, because we have to manufacture the medicines for the people in such a constrained environment. So there will be, even going further, I think I expect more flexibility coming from the government and from the business models that we're trying. Over to you, Vikram.
No, I think you highlighted things that companies are doing. I think these are all, on the ground. So I think what HR and business leaders have to do is to keep their ears on the ground and deal with challenges of people as they are facing them. I think uh, in addition to what Raju has said, I think this is the time to talk about, the only way of assuaging, anxiety or fears are really to take some hard measures. So all the measures that Raju spoke about are very hard measures which you can see, whether it is adding the number of buses because there is social distancing, or all these measures are very hard measures. For us, we are also looking at some very hard measures. For example, we said we are going to increase the testing. So anytime any family has to do COVID testing, we will, give it free. So to your original point, employees are very, very, we have to honor their intelligence and understand the real issues. So this is not the time for HR to make rangolis or do fun Fridays and do quiz and trivia on Fridays. That is not the level of HR needed. What's needed is to understand when every time, as Raju mentioned, somebody steps out. So we are looking at a little extra, medical insurance. We've topped up extra life insurance because those are realities. At the bottom of the pyramid, what's the value of human life? All of us think that we've covered a first line person who's securing say 5 lakhs or a medical rep who's drawing 6 lakhs. What's the value of his life or her life? So stepping up insurance, stepping up medical coverage, more safety, security, and also more importantly, many of these hard, including leave, employees have asked how much leave will we give. So you said as much leave as it takes for you to get cured. You'll be surprised. There is no protocol today to tell you whether this person is infectious after recovery. How many days after recovering from COVID is a person contagious, or when does he or she become non-contagious? Even now, there are no protocols, which means this is totally new territory. Some literature and CDC US says you must test twice, once every alternate day after 14 days of somebody having recovered from COVID. So we are also having to see what are the ground realities. A couple of our sites in the US, we've had our first COVID cases. So I think all of it is teaching us to take some hard measures and not to look at engagement the way we used to, or engagement as it's meant to be. It is, out there in the field and understanding and being on the side to support with some very hard measures.
Yeah, to both of you, you see, in hindsight, everything looks fine, but then what probably could be some of the things which as business, you could have, steps taken before this unprecedented crisis as such. Can you think of something which as a business, you think we could have taken care of? Some business where we should have put more attention, more in terms of supply chain, in terms of product, in terms of processes. Is there something which comes to your mind?
Vikram, would you like to go first, or?
I think I'd like to challenge the assumption in that question, Amal. I think there is an assumption in the question that the worst is over. And I'd like to tell you that, I don't know about Cipla. I don't think there has mass shutdowns in factories, but there are, unfortunately, some of our competitors and our fellow pharmacy companies, they've had to shut down plants. My understanding, and with all humility, is we haven't seen the worst yet in our factories. So we are at the moment still in a preparation phase, Amal, trying to understand the contours of how to run our factories with our offices with 1/4 people. So the demand side is full, but how do you run, as Raju said, with just 10% headcount? Costs will go up. So I think we are still at the base of the Everest. The mountain is still ahead of us. Is how I see it. So I think maybe after a year we could become wiser in hindsight. Right now there is no hindsight.
Okay,
I
got
like
it.
the way you put it, Vikram, and I think I'll just adding to what Vikram has said. Let's look at some of the timelines here, Amal. Until December, and we all know it's all widespread in the media that this was not disclosed to the whole world for a very long time. The first inklings of that this is a major problem happened late December, right? So, and early January, and people were thinking it is something like SARS, or which is like this is within China and we restricted there. So nobody imagined the ramifications of what this will actually lead to. So it is not just a company or an industry or a country. I think it's the whole world that has been taken by surprise. Now, also let me just give you an at least I can say for ourselves that we had actually started discussing some amount of it, because as Vikram said, 65% of the API's dependency is on China. So most pharma companies will try to see, okay, how is it impacting their supply chain? Some have been ahead of the curve in terms of planning, and some, but you can plan for API, but that's API is not the be all and end all. There are so many other things. And let me give you one example. Government announced a lockdown on 22nd of March. Till the 24th or 25th of March, our administrative machinery was still figuring out what to do with the curfew passes, who will issue them, how they have to be issued, will they be paper, and who's going to stamp them, because they also did not have the enough manpower and people to come and make those curfew passes, right? So this has got, and this is just as an example. So no matter what you can do, you can never be enough prepared to deal with this. Even after being on this for like 2 months, and I agree with Vikram, today if you ask me, I don't know what new things I'm going to confront tomorrow, because every day is a new day for me. Every day there's something new that develops and something new that requires us that, and we've stopped telling ourselves, oh, why didn't we think of it before? Because you know what, there's only so much that you can think, there's only so much that you can do, act. So it's all about being continuously in a dynamic mode.
Yeah.
And yet, Amal, if I may, because uh, you know, wisdom also is that when you can also pause and reflect. So I think one thing certainly maybe communication, a little more over communication to our employees, to our stakeholders. There isn't always enough of communication that one can do. So for example, I think. While there was a lot of fear, I think I would personally say for myself, we could have communicated a lot more also about recovery scenarios.
Yeah.
Because it's not just bleak that everybody who has COVID, dies. So I found that many times our factory managers were creating very linear equations like, oh, I will open my factory and people will die. So I think that's what happens in an extreme fear. You start to make linear connections, whereas it's not so linear. The fact is that the
Yeah.
majority of the people recover, and only 20% of 10% need acute hospitalization, or even lesser need hospitalization. So I think communicating the overall scenario, especially what is the positive news, could have been done better. I think, and the second thing is being very country specific. I think since the tsunami, the pandemic hit us, we were trying to look at a very corporate response. But I think the moment we switched, and just like the Modi government, I thought the moment we gave away a lot of power to the local HR in UK, in US, in Sri Lanka, in Europe, I think the kind of responses, the fast speed of response started to improve, because each country was announcing its own closure norms. So I think not trying to control too much from the head office was another insight.
Yes. Good. In fact, in a way, you have also taken care of the next question, which I had was, which are the ways in which the nature of work has changed in organizations as such and all. And Where do you see some of the jobs which are there, which are the new jobs which will come up as such, which something which we have never thought of as such in this crisis, especially in the sectors that you are in. If you can just throw some light on that as.
Okay.
Raju, would you like to go?
Sure. So I think, yes, I think one thing that is there for here to stay is that work from home surely will become a way of life, not only for pharma as our industry, but we are seeing some bold announcements that a lot of companies have made, where actually they have declared that, so many percentage of people will actually be working from home. And we are talking of almost 75% of people working from home. Now this, just one, this has so many ramifications for so many other things, you know. So anyone who's agile and techno savvy and who can actually work in a very nimble way will be the people who will thrive. Sometimes people, wonder, ki, is it all the doom and gloom because so many jobs will go away? What will happen to real estate? But sometimes human system, they have a way of evolving themselves. I'll give you a very small example. Just today morning, I actually got a call from none other than Taj, which is actually saying we do home catering services. Now you would have never imagined a Taj reaching out to actually their clients and talking about home catering. Now, in every adversity lies an opportunity. And I think while some doors may get closed, but there are many others that are really going to open up to make sure that, because the talent is always there, there is a need. This is not the end of the world. And it's only about being positive, always honing your skills, This time has even taught us even more. So, a lot of companies have also done a lot of e-learning and virtual learning programs for their employees. And I was amazed to see for the first time in these so many years how seriously and intently people are actually going through the courses, and course completion is high. They are, because they are really investing in themselves and building. I think never before, and both Ganu and Vikram and I have been part of a learning management institute, right? We always had to push learning, but this, you have seen a pull for learning. So people are coming up with different skill sets, trying to do a lot of gig economy, will continue to flourish because the, the manning models of most companies are going to change. So there will be opportunities as long as people are willing to change their paradigms of working. Probably 9 to 5 may not exist anymore. It may be few hours in a day, it may be few days in a week or something like that. So that kind of shift we are likely to see even more. And there'll be many more, but I think I'll just, Vikram, I think you can add on to this.
Yeah, and I think I'll take a functional cut on the same question. So if you examine four functions, let's examine manufacturing and supply chain, and I'm going to answer this through the lens of these four functions. So manufacturing, supply chain, also quality as a function, and then maybe sales, because we have all got large field forces globally and in different countries, maybe these three. So I think the first thing we are seeing is, even in our pharma businesses, is very smart or digital pharma factories. So we are seeing that, for example, for the first time, manufacturing and supply chain data, is getting combined. So, I was just looking at which of the plants have got all these sensors. So we have now hard and soft sensors which are capturing the following data, machine utilization, productivity, machine health, energy consumption, inventory levels, temperature control, batch status. I think all these things are now the data, so-called ponds are becoming a data lake. So I see financial data, demand data, production data, customer data, all of this is coming together real time to help us determine batch sizes in our pharma factories. So I think a lot of change in intelligent and digital manufacturing and supply chain. So that, therefore, you can see the rise of we will not see very classic machine operators. In fact, they will be there, but you'll see a lot more data geeks, inside digital factory guys inside our factories on the manufacturing and supply chain. Similarly, if you
Fantastic.
look at quality,
Yeah.
quality as a function, you'll see, both in QA and QC, you'll see a very different breed of people. Even human beings, I think those days of, human beings carrying samples from a batch house to the laboratory and testing them are all getting over. So machines are replacing a lot of testing for accuracy.
Yes.
So that is certainly changing. And of course, Raju spoke about our medical reps and other business people. So today, actually, honestly, pandemic-wise, medical doctors are not being met, or very difficult for medical reps to meet doctors. So how will detailing happen? And I think, honestly, these are also not doctors who are 60, who will need face-to-face detailing. They are doctors who are standing on the go. They are accessing apps. So their way of accessing information, their way of receiving and accepting detailing from pharma companies is going to be very different. So all these, at least these three functions, I see big changes in how the work will happen, and therefore the workers also have to, as I said.
Very good. I think, Ranjit, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. I have actually two questions. First, I wanted to understand today, how much pressure are you under? How much stress are you feeling being in heading HR in your organization? Is it an extremely stressful time, or are things moving sort of in a methodical way, and you feel confident and things are going smoothly? How stressful is this for you right now?
All the difficult questions Raju will answer.
Okay.
So I think stress has different meaning and ramifications. I would say that there are different kinds of stress, and there are different intensity of stress. So if I were to just talk about the last 2 months, ever since work from home started, and that's why we started feeling. So I think for all of us, it was like a sudden switch on kind of a thing, right? We were never used to the work from home in such a large measure. So the first few days really took us time to understand what's really happening. Uh, Also, for most of us, we are used to having some help at home. Today we're doing everything, right from cleaning, cooking, everything we are doing at home. Most of us are servants are not allowed entry into the building, so that creates another kind of stress. Then the other kind of stress, especially for HR, so we are working from home. We have to make sure that our employees are safe and they're coming. And one of these incidents that you get to hear, there is this emotional thing that you don't want to reach out to people, you feel sad about them. That creates another kind of stress. So all of that notwithstanding is the kind of stress. And we were just talking about work from home. The lines between work and home is all blurred. You don't know. Sometimes you're cooking a meal and then you suddenly are discussing HR strategy, right? So those kind of things are happening. But at the end of it all, I think we take at least for me, I feel that at least in some ways we are able to help the society because of the kind of work that we do and the kind of support that people are expecting from us. So I think all of that stress becomes worth it because you see, it's something that drives you. So I would say that yeah, it has been different periods, peaks and valleys have happened on this stress dimension. And I think we are all now better prepared because I think it's a long haul. So mentally, we are all tuned in that this is not going to go away very soon.
Yeah, Vikram, you want to add?
I think, I think Raju has summed up very well. So I think it's a difficult act to follow. For me, I think the way I look at it is, there is an opportunity. So I feel good about there's a problem to be. I'm personally a problem solver, so I love solving problems. And the uniqueness of this problem, it's kind of keeping me very excited. The various edges, the nuances, the variables, trying to balance them is keeping me on the edge. So I'm very excited as a problem solver. And the fact that it's a new problem is making it exciting.
Yeah.
The second, the stress, yes. Am I stressed? I'm certainly stressed because for the first time, I think I'm drawing inspiration from a lot of youngsters, millennials. I'm so jealous that they agree to their mental health. So it's okay not to be okay. I think I was born in a generation where you have to always be macho and not let your guard down. And but I think when I look at the millennials, the way they come forward, we've launched a very strong mental helpline, mental
Yes.
initiative for mental health, all inspired by the youngsters. And it's very humbling, as well as you look and say, yes, I'm stressed. I'm okay saying that, and that's a big shift. So for me, the source of stress is we are a conglomerate and there are four different treatments of people. So our farmers business is doing very well. So there everything is gung-ho and the spirit is gung-ho. The only problem is we are deferring some bonuses and increments. Whereas our real estate business is down in the dumps. Nobody's buying homes. And there, it's a question of protecting jobs. The financial services business again is on a different trajectory there. The model is digital. You're making an analog to digital transition. So I think the stress comes from how do you isolate, how do you switch tracks every 2 hours into a different business and trying to understand and treat them different.
So, well, I have a second question, but I'll ask
Yes.
it. I'll wait for the others to ask their questions. Then I'll ask my second question.
Yeah. Aniljit, you had a question.
Thank you, both Dr. Mistry and Mr. Bector, for sharing your insights. I have a reflective question of what Mr. Bector said about Salesforce and social distancing when visiting doctors. Now, the entire pharma industry has a very, very large number of Salesforce, right? So can you explain a little in detail with some timing as to how do you see the roles of these people changing if you find that meeting doctors is going to change in a dramatic way? So that's my first question. And my second question, which you can take subsequently, is that, times of change like this usually end up giving some opportunities to some companies which they seize with both hands and get to improve market share, while other companies perhaps tend to lose out because of the change period. If you have any ideas in that area, would love to hear of that. Thank you.
Raju, you have a large India force. We don't have that big. Would you like to take a shot at the first one?
Sure. So I think that's a very good question, Aniljit. This has also been one of the questions that we have also been grappling with in terms of what do we do. What will actually happen is that doctors will continue to be required to be serviced because we are in the field of science, and science, the progress happens every day, and therefore the doctors will have to be kept abreast of what is happening, what is the latest technology in the medicine, and also the work of the field force will continue to be there, but it will change its avatar. Today, instead of like doing a manual detailing and going there, you will have to do it digitally, right? And I think digital is the way to go, and I think that's where I see a lot of work happening in that space. Also, if you were to segment, I'm talking now India specific. If you divide our country and the kind of doctors that need to be serviced, we have both of the urban and the rural. So, and we have the specialist and we have the mass. So we have to have a strategy which will deal each one of them differently, and therefore segmenting our field force to deal with different kind of the categorization of the doctors. But surely enough, I think digital is here to stay, and the responsibility of pharma companies in terms of educating and helping the science and communicating that to the doctors will continue to be there. It will change the avatar in which it gets done.
Yeah. I think, I am reminded of, if you heard, I'm not a communist, but I'm a big fan of revolution. So Lenin has a very famous quote saying that, for decades, it goes something like, for decades, nothing happens. Then in a few weeks, decades happen, or something like that, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I think we are seeing that specifically, a lot of things because of digital. This pandemic is actually going to accelerate a few things which were going very slow. And what
Right.
the question you raised is one of them. We run telemedicine helplines out of our Hyderabad office. We run a very large Piramal Foundation. In the last 2 months, we've got 6 lakh legit calls. So the shift is happening is we have doctors sitting in Hyderabad who are answering queries, for people everywhere. So telemedicine honestly is here to stay. I think, therefore, will there be a lot of tele-detailing? I guess so. That's what Raju is also hinting. In some parts of the country, maybe the face-to-face detailing by medical reps will continue. But just the way that these young doctors are consuming knowledge is changing. Many of them are getting it through us. Company where they don't need intermediary. So I think we have to understand how patients are consuming the doctor's time and how doctors are consuming, the education materials, etc. So both are shifting, and should not be surprised that many of the GP intermediaries might even vanish. So I think there could be different things happening because of such super specialized disorders coming in. So there are those 3 trends. Some are linked and some not linked, which I wanted to allude to.
Thank you. Sushil, you have a question, I guess? Sushil? Sushil, you have to unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sushil, yes.
Good evening, Dr. Mistry and Vikram. I have 2 questions. China is a little ahead of curve in this matter because they got out of this pandemic to a large extent, before the world started to even understand this. So in your observation, how has life changed in that country for people in terms of their ways of working? And where I come from is a little observation yesterday that I had when we had our own Asian conference of XPM. The 3 partners of ours were without masks. There was no social distancing. So I was just wondering, is that a norm now, again back to normal there, or is it an exception? So that's one question. The second question is, in times of this where bottom lines are seriously stretched for most organizations, apart from the typical heads of travel cost and the conferences and all that, what are other big cost saving initiatives that come to the mind with such large corporates like both of you who represent, which can really significantly alter the cost structure in the years to come? So these are just 2 questions.
Okay, Vikram, I'll go first, and then let's follow that. See, I don't know where whatever we have read and we are following. If you see the latest guideline by the World Health Organization, this is not something that has gone away. Or you can't wish it away. It is here to stay, and it is going to be there for the next couple of years, is what one of the reports says of the World Health Organization. Even if you see China, and because whatever little bit media coverage is there and what we get to know, so while they are there, they seem to have come back or swung back to normalcy, but you see everything there has changed. In fact, there are video clipping that we say how the mother is taking the child to the school, how many times the child has to clean his hands, and so the life has changed over there in more ways than one. And I think that's here for us to stay. The kind of examples that you mentioned about people not wearing masks, I think it's just that change of habit, but people pay a price for that. I, we have to take this seriously, and if we have to really contain the spread, so these kind of bravados should not be encouraged. In fact, we should actually call it out. And if you don't care for your safety, it's okay, but at least I need to care for mine. So we have to call this out. Even in societies, there are stringent measures that people are putting to place because this spreads, and we also know that this virus is mutating. So how many mutation is going to go through, it's really not, we don't know about it. And coming back to your second question about the cost, see, while we are talking about less of travel and all of that, what we are not seeing is how much of additional cost this has created for companies. Most companies today, a bus, you cannot use it to full capacity. It works on 40 to 50% capacity because of social distancing, right? Again, you have because of the lockdown, there's no public transportation. You have to run 12-hour shifts, so this is actually added cost. So right now companies are more worried about running the operation and getting things going than to just say, okay, where is it, because we are looking at how do we save cost and how do you create some things. But right now, the way the situation is evolving and creating, I think there are more cost pressures than what most people can see and talk about. The entire safety protocol, social distancing is a very costly business. But we have to do it, and we will do it because the employee safety is very important. Vikram, over to you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think Sushil, we have taken our responsibility in the admin team and the HR team very, very seriously. So I think new habits, as Raju mentioned, we will not be taking them lightly. So I was chairing a reopening meeting for all our work from home offices in India. And so there are these 5, 6 new habits which we as Indians or corporate Indians have to form. Simple things like, as you brush your teeth, we will all have to update the app in the morning to uh, put up our status update. So we have a company app and we have Arogya Setu. So I think both are there to protect us. Yes, there are privacy issues, but remember, in a crisis, public health rules over privacy. So at least we are trying to make sure new habits like updation of health. Second is social distancing. You cannot move too much in the office. We are tracking, so you cannot expect to go and move a lot in the office. Third is no cafeterias. So we are going to be requesting people to bring home lunch from home. Fourth is no. So I think there are multiple rules. No sharing of transportation, etc., wherever affordable. So we have to be very serious about new habits, just like we became serious about airport security after the huge issues we faced. So it's a new normal. It's something we must all warn, check each other, nudge each other, but take it very seriously. And I think to your second question, what is getting cut? Of course, a lot of discretionary spend. One big shift, this is an opportunity. Every crisis is an opportunity. One big shift this year is we have closed absolute face-to-face training programs. And like Raju mentioned, our e-learning tabs have opened up full time. And we are seeing a lot of change in behavior. So e-learning is certainly the order of the day. Digitization of a lot of our processes, that has got accelerated. So we were actually surprised by the rich amount of data sitting in even HR and other places. So there is no paper involved anywhere now. Everything is onboarding is without paper. So I think digitization and digital models have got pushed out. our sales of diapers, and baby products, and also multivitamins. One of our strong brands is Supradin. So a lot of wellness products sale on Amazon not on Amazon, on e-pharmacies has gone up. Similarly, what happens is every problem throws up these challenges. Our e-channel sales has gone up, especially on the consumer side. So we have to look at each problem as an opportunity, and sometimes push us to out of our comfort zone.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, Sita, I think so. We have the last question because of time. So, Sita, can we have it, please?
You're
on mute.
Hi.
Hi.
We've covered a lot of challenges between both of your very large conglomerates, really. And one of the things for us to understand as a partnership is really the ones where you would look outside of your environment for help.
So I just saw you've uploaded this Trello internal release, so I'll go through that. So that is for both Android and iOS.
Hello,
right?
is there somebody on the line?
Okay, cool. So I'll go through that and the test report.
I think it's coming from Shamendra.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So we discussed a lot of challenges, whether it was to do with the whole area around digitization or data geeks or e-learning or shutting down, where real estate wasn't working, for example, etc. If each of you had to say there were 3 areas that you may look to where you do not have the help within your conglomerate already, would you be able to list those for us? Because it's obviously of interest to us as we develop our partnership as well.
So if I've understood your question, it's about which are the areas that we as conglomerates would seek help, right? Is that?
Yes, in terms of not being able to look within your conglomerates, which I understand are large, so they obviously have severe, amount of resources in there. But you may say, well, these 3 subject areas, we really look for outside help and we would need it,
So I think for us, this is actually, we are looking at this as an opportunity for challenging some of our assumptions, some of our paradigms that we've actually held. So some help in this area where this can be facilitated for some of our leaders would be a good opportunity area for us, because it's really making a big shift from what we have done business just a couple of months back and what we have to do now. So how do you completely transition to the new model and do it smoothly, seamlessly, and in an agile manner? That would be one of the asks from us.
For us, the 3 capabilities which we would love to lean on, either gig workers or experts from outside. One is really the whole digital. I spoke about manufacturing and supply chain. Experts on digital manufacturing and the entire people who can think digital in manufacturing space. The second is the whole analytics space. Analytics experts who can really work with data, can mine the customer, product, regulatory, supply chain, make sense of the entire data lake. So that set of specialists. And the third is in the area of research. Specifically, I'm talking about. And these are all 3 on the pharma side. We do some amount of research, but honestly, it's a product research and not, sometimes at the level of chemistry and other things. So those would be the 3 capabilities.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. I think we are just on time to finish, and that's the way. I mean, I think if life can go on like that, nothing like it, I'm sure. And Raju, Vikram, a big thank you from XPM. And we would like to maybe exchange again, how we stand maybe in a few months' time and do that. And wish you all well in your journeys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye. Bye. Bye.